Hey, how are you all? Welcome to Kez Book Reviews and to Kez Story Time. We are still reading from this book here, The Gift of Story, a wise tale about what is enough, and where I was up to in the book yesterday. And thank you for all the comments on YouTube and LinkedIn. Yeah, it's a delight to know that these stories are really hitting home, because to me, when I read this book, What is Enough, I started questioning myself, what is enough? And maybe it's time we all did that. What is enough? What do you believe is enough for you? So where did we get to? Well, we got to describing where they were sitting and their description of their clothing and themselves. And then we go to the next chapter where it says, there they sat, two strangers with nothing but their names. They were stripped of everything except their own heartbeats. There they were, two refugees listening hard for footsteps in the snow, two souls ready to flee at a moment's notice. And together they carried all this heartbreak on the most beautiful night, during which in normal times people everywhere throughout all the villages celebrated in their own ways the high holidays, seasons and return of the blessed light to the world. Now it was clear to the man's way of speaking that he was far more learned than she. Even so, she was grateful when at last he said, "Let me tell you a story to pass the night." Oh, she thought, a story. Something familiar. And the times they lived, nothing made sense, but a simple story that she could understand. This is the story he told, one that gave meaning to the question, what is enough and what is your enough? And made that night unlike any other before or since. Here we go with what is enough. Tonight we have nothing, began the old man, but somewhere in the world, no doubt, there are people who may have much more than they need. So what is enough? Let us consider that question. Once upon a time, long, long ago, during the times our blessed grandparents were still living, there was a poor but very beautiful woman who was married to an equally poor but very handsome young man. It was nearing the holiday time of the year when gifts were exchanged. The young people were very hard pressed, for a war had raged over the land for many years and had only recently receded. All the sleep had gone. There was no wool to make thread, and without thread there was no spinning, and without spinning there was no cloth, and therefore no clothes to replace threadbare ones. And as they were able, people cut up 2 pairs of shoes to make one pitiful pair. Everyone wore all the ragged sweaters and vests they owned, so that they looked deceptively robust around the belly, yet gaunt above and below. Then, as often happens when the worst of war is over, the people began to creep back to what was left of their homes. Like the dog that knows its own field, they came back to stay, regardless of any poor condition. Some of the farm women began to mend the ploughs, replacing the shells with the old casings, and they heated and they shaped by hand. Others cut open and shook dead plants, searching for seeds. The tailor begged a few scraps of cloth and began to sew again, and he sold his patchwork, vests and coats on the streets. The baker ground by hand whatever grain he could, and he grew them in broken pots in the windows, and then deftly shaped the tiny little breads which he sold from his front door. And gratefully, merchant-minded people began to gather a small living for themselves by selling little thises and thats, while thanking goodness that whatever evil war could do, it had not been able to blot out their sun. And so it went in the village. Though not bountiful, everywhere there reappeared the most simple signs of life, and people took great care to protect all things that were either very frail or very young. I'll leave it there for now. I really love this story, and I hope you do too. Please leave comments below. I love hearing what you're thinking about my reading this story to you. And that's it from me. I will talk to you tomorrow with the rest of the story from this book. That's it from me. Bye.